activism needs to be about keeping these commandments.
This is not what I expected out of them. The true Bible, the book about following.
Right. The Most High has given us guidance on what we need to do.
It's Officer Eli.
It's Officer Nahshon.
Officer Ezekiel.
All praise to the Most High. We're back. We're going to get right into it with time running. Put my article back up there, brothers. Put my article back up there because we're getting ready to get into it. This is out of the, I guess this is NBC News. They say that this is their article. A COVID-19 vaccine will work only if trials include black participants, experts say. But then let's read what it says into the article. It says, the reason I hear African Americans will not participate are heartbreaking, says this person, and disappointing. I've heard about the Tuskegee experiment a lot. So one of the reasons why our people are not, as indicated in this article, as to the reason why a lot of our people will not just subject themselves or subject ourselves to a COVID-19 vaccine is because of the history of what happened during Tuskegee. Now, I'm going to show you something. Let's go to the video. Now, I'm going to come back to this article. Let's go to the video. Watch this.
Good evening. Back in the 1940s, when Nazi doctors went on trial for experiments on humans, the world first heard a term called research crime. But most of us, of course, were convinced it could never happen here. Well, tonight, we're going to take you back 60 years to Alabama, where 412 men were singled out for research by the U.S. Public Health Service. At the time, syphilis was raging. Some people could withstand the disease, particularly with treatment, but others died a horrible death. And we'll never know how many from that research group of men could have been saved, as you'll see when Jay Shadler confronts the sole remaining director of the Tuskegee experiment.
Have you ever had even one single moment of moral doubt about what you did?
Moral doubt? Not really.
It began before most of us were born. It was 1932, and the government was on a crusade to stamp out syphilis in the rural South, a disease that caused blindness, madness, and sometimes death.
Y'all can turn it up a little bit.
The days of syphilis are numbered. Syphilis will be the next great plague to go.
Crude chemical treatments were being used with some success. But to better understand the disease, doctors from the Public Health Service wanted to know what would happen if syphilis went untreated. They needed human subjects, and in Macon County, Alabama, they found what they were looking for.
Pause
a high rate of syphilis.
Pause it. So they said that they needed human subjects that would allow to be injected with syphilis and to not be treated. That's what I want y'all to understand, that, because you're going to find out later on that it didn't just happen to black men. Go ahead.
And a population that had never been treated. Over the next 40 years, government doctors would make sure 412 of these men never would be. They were the sons and grandsons of slaves, like this man, Charlie Pollard, scratching out a living on a sharecropper's farm.
We raised cotton all my life, and velvet beans, corn, peas. Used to raise a lot of that.
Today, Charlie Pollard is 85 and one of just 27 survivors of the Tuskegee experiment. We met him in the same church where doctors first enlisted him into their study.
Why don't you think there were any white people involved in the experiment?
Well, anyhow, they're just doing something with the colored people.
Did they ever tell you that you had syphilis?
No. No.
Stop. How evil that is. They never told him that he had syphilis, so you won't even seek treatment. Because they were using these brothers as guinea pigs. Go ahead. This is the reason why. Listen to me. Like I said, these no good preachers that's against this truth. You know our people went through all kinds of hell in this country, right, and you ain't saying a damn thing. Ain't saying nothing. You busy trying to crush the truth that's bringing out the evil that's going on with our people, and you ain't saying a damn thing in your pulpit. You busy trying to stop the Israelites. You ain't saying nothing about all of this evil that the damn white man is telling you.
Right.
In his NBC and ABC programs. You ain't said a damn thing with your pulpit. The Lord, we got your card in this lesson. Go ahead.
And how they're just doing something with the colored people.
Did they ever tell you that you had syphilis?
No. No.
What did they tell you?
Bad blood. They said that.
Had you ever seen a doctor before this study began?
No, sir, not by any means.
Herman Shaw had been told he had bad blood too. Like the other men who were eventually lured into the experiment, he'd seen the handbills and heard the warnings by the Public Health Service.
Bad blood makes people sick. It destroys heart and brain.
So Herman Shaw came for a free medical checkup at his church.
Pause it. Stop. So they had radio, because you heard the radio announcement said,
right,
we're about to figure out and we're about to get rid of what is called bad blood. No such thing. Bad blood. And what they wanted to do was draw our people in and secretly inject them with syphilis and never tell them that they had syphilis and allow them to leave and cohabit with whomever they will and never were to be treated for syphilis. 412 black men. That's what they just told you in the beginning of this. So I'm going to pause the video there. I'm going to come back to this. Let's go to the article. I'm going to read this thing out the article. Let's go back to the article for a second. Don't move. Don't lose the space on that. We're coming back to that. Brothers and sisters, stay with me. Show it again. Show the article on the main screen. Let the title again, because I'm going to just read through it real quick. I'm going to be quick. A COVID-19 vaccine will work only if trials or clinical trials include black participants. Experts say we've been down this road before.
Right.
Are you kidding? And the person says the reasons I hear African Americans will not participate are heartbreaking. They ain't no damn heartbreaking. Really? That's common sense. We're scared to death. We live in fear. That's what I'm gonna read that. I'm gonna read that out the Bible. That's the reason why. So how in the world are you going to try to say that we're not the people of the Most High? We live under a oppressive, tyrannic state. Clearly. It says that the reasons that I hear African Americans will not participate are heartbreaking and disappointing. Disappointing to who? Are you kidding me? And I've heard, this is what they said, and I've heard about the Tuskegee experiment a lot. Like you could just brush that off. You can't, that's not trivial. You just don't brush that off. So this is Dr. Nita Patel, Director of Antibiotic. I'm reading the article. Move on down. I'm going to read the article. I'm going to just read it. Dr. Nita Patel, Director of Antibody Discovery and Vaccine Development, lifts a vial of a potential coronavirus vaccine at Novavax Labs in Rockville, Maryland in March 2020. So now let's read into a little bit of this. We're going to get back to the video. Brothers and sisters, stay with me. Calethea Hodge has an artist's task. Her task is persuade black people who have a deep mistrust of experimental drugs and medical institutions to participate in clinical trials to help find a vaccine for the deadly coronavirus. Y'all see that on the screen, right? It's quite a paradox. African Americans have been disproportionately devastated by COVID-19. Wait a minute, let's talk about that. Black people have been disproportionately devastated by COVID-19. Are there other factors that contribute to these things, like poor health care, bad environmental conditions that this country put on us? We didn't ask for these things. You brought us here, robbed us, took everything from us, took our talents, raped us, robbed us, hung us, and then left us to rot in the ghettos. So then when certain realities come as a result of that, we are more prone to sickness. We are more prone to bad everything. Now all of a sudden you telling us that we need some damn so-called COVID-19 cure, when the reasons why we're so disproportionately affected with it is because we've been put into that condition. Now all of a sudden you want to give us a cure, so-called cure. That's the reason why black people are mistrusting of those things because Tuskegee already showed us about that. We ain't never going to forget that. You know, the so-called Jews don't forget their so-called Holocaust. Right. You want us to forget what happened to us. The hell with you. We ain't forgetting nothing.
They need guinea pigs again.
Exactly. So it says, where am I at? Let's go back to the article. It's quite a paradox. African Americans have been disproportionately devastated by COVID-19, but they are inadequately represented in human studies that would treat a disease that has claimed more than 106,000 lives in the United States. Almost a quarter of them were black, according to the study. Okay, that's why this is what the woman is saying. She said, and that's why I do what I do, said Hodges, a clinician at Infinite Clinical Labs outside Atlanta. Wow. And that's why I am here in this neighborhood that is predominantly African American. So her job is to try to persuade us to just ignore what we went through and just go and do these things anyway. The last piece that I'm going to read, and we're going to go back to the video. African American participation in the trial is critical. This is what they're saying. Medical experts have said. Researchers and cogenetics, let me look at this word so I can pronounce it right. Pharmacogenetics, the science that studies how genetic factors affect reactions to drugs. Stress that medicines could produce different results based on race and genetic, social, economical, and environmental dynamics. They're telling you right there. They're saying that people are affected by race because your race is going to be the way how we get treated. Social, economical are some of the reasons why we're going to face disparities in healthcare, and environmental dynamics, drugs in our neighborhood, guns, things of this nature. All of these things translates into making us more prone to sicknesses. People have asthmatic situations because they can't get proper health care and things of that nature. Yes.
And it also says genetics, root word gene, gender.
Right.
Your gender can also play a part in how your body reacts to certain things. Gender. So you can't be a black man and say I'm a white woman.
Right.
Because you want to, because your body's going to react a certain way because you're a man.
Exactly. So now that we got that out of the way, let's go back to the video. Okay, we're picking up, this is one of the survivors, half survivor, I should say, because he's still ridden with the disease that was given to him by the government. Play on.
That first exam was complimentary, but a price would be paid later as he was probed, tested, and deceived by an ever-changing corps of government doctors.
They never did tell us what they were treating us for. And on down through the years, somebody it leaked out that they were using us for guinea pigs.
They are nice people, but they just weren't educated. That doesn't mean they're dumb. They were just illiterate.
Dr. Sidney Olansky led the Tuskegee study from 1950 to 1955. At 77, he still practices medicine half days at his office in Atlanta.
Would this experiment have ever been conducted on a group of affluent white men?
I think it could have been if we'd had white men in the same general category. Say we got a bunch of hillbillies up in West Virginia that had a lot of syphilis.
You do experiments on blacks in Macon County. You talk about hillbillies. It sounds as if you'd like to do just experiments on the most vulnerable parts of the population.
Look at that devilish smile. Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying that because you have to have, in order to do the kind of study we were interested in, you had to have a bunch of people who were close, that you could reach, and who had syphilis. That was the key.
The other key was to keep the men in the study once they'd been recruited.
And how's your health now, Mr. Johnson?
Pretty
Hold on. You heard that.
Real quick. So Arthur Ashe, he can stand up for his people. Muhammad Ali can stand up for his people, and these things coincidentally happen to them. But this man admitted to practicing this disease on people, putting this disease on people, but he's still out to practice being a doctor.
That's the connection.
Right.
That's nuts. That's
Okay.
wow.
That's the
wicked,
evil.
the wicked
right.
being revealed.
Exactly. There you go, right there. And these black preachers ain't said a damn thing.
And I'm glad you said it, D, because I know that when we came back to this, that I heard that they came to the church. Started right there,
Right.
with
They
the
was
church,
sitting in the pews doing the interview.
in the church.
Where the hell's the preacher at?
Right.
This is the church where you got infected.
Damn.
Still going on today.
Right. And they said that and even still they kept them in distance so they can continue to monitor the progress of syphilis without even telling them that they were injected with syphilis. Damn. That's some evil right there. Go ahead.
Pretty fair. I have a shortness at the breast.
Price Johnson recalls he was drawn into the experiment by doctors who used a parade of not-so-subtle enticements, from free food and car rides into town to medical care and cash.
We went to VA hospital. They give us $25.
That was pretty big money back then.
I know it was. It's good big money.
Mr. Johnson, what was it exactly that they told you they wanted to do with you?
Didn't say. I never questioned nobody about nothing. I just listened. Whatever they say, if I agree, they know it, and if I don't, they don't know it.
The fact that they were illiterate was helpful, too, because they couldn't read the newspapers. If they were not illiterate, as the things moved on, they might have been reading the newspapers and see what was going on.
Frankly, if they had been educated, sophisticated people, they wouldn't have stood for this.
That's right. Except that they got what they wanted. You see, one of the things about the rural black is that the one thing they fear is not to be buried decently.
Not only did the government doctors need these men when they were alive, they needed their bodies after they died for autopsies. But convincing the families to approve this final step in the experiment would not be easy. So another incentive was offered: burial insurance. $50 would cover the cost of a simple coffin, maybe a cemetery plot. It might not seem like much, but for men born and raised in poverty, it was more than enough. When did you pick out your burial plot? When did you do that?
Oh, long ago.
Price Johnson, like nearly all the other men in the study, took the government up on its grim offer.
So this way, if the government was paying for the burial, you wouldn't have to.
They said they would.
They wouldn't have to pass the cost on to your own family.
That's the truth. That's what they said they would do. And I'm pinning on them.
We had an arrangement with the funeral directors that if we got the post, they got the money to bury him.
If you got the postmortem, the autopsy.
If we were able to do it. And they took out just some tissue. They were most interested in the heart, the brain, the liver.
Do you know what an autopsy is?
So pause it. These men had lives. Families. And their only interest that they saw in this black man was purely experimental. Even after they died, they wanted to do an autopsy and measure the effect of syphilis on the organs, and never to tell these men that they were injected with syphilis. This is the kind of country we live in. This is the hell that black people, the Israelites, are subjected to. Okay, you trying to tell me about some so-called 6 million? All the black people suffered this kind of mentality and real abuse. And it doesn't stop. It's still going on. And the preacher said nothing. Go ahead.
To the government doctors, the men were strictly clinical subjects, conveniently available whenever blood samples needed to be drawn or yearly physicals had to be given.
They looked forward to our coming, really. So we did. We looked them over, and we took some blood. And we had a lot of fun while we were doing it.
I wound up staying in the bed about a week.
After the spinal tap?
That's it.
For the doctors, giving a spinal tap was a way to gauge the progression of the disease. For the men, it was an excruciating ordeal that they were told would help cure their bad blood.
The nurse was in front of me, was hanging on my head. There was one on each side of me.
Holding you?
Yeah.
Because of the pain.
Right. They didn't get no anesthesia for that.
Give us that spinal shot.
Most of the men that we talked to thought that they were actually being treated for their disease when they were getting the spinal taps.
No, that's a diagnostic test. Well, I don't know what they were told. They could have been. I mean, sometimes people will say things that they don't really mean or don't really believe in order to accomplish something they want.
These men trusted you.
Me? They hardly knew me.
They trusted the government doctors.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
If nothing was done that was wrong here, morally or scientifically, why don't they trust you anymore?
Someone got them all heated up. They were easily swayed. They were like a pack of sheep, and they could have been talked into anything, I think.
You call them a pack of sheep. The government doctors used that to their advantage, didn't they?
In a way, yes, sure, in a way.
Having deceived the men into believing that they were being treated, the government now decided they should be kept from a possible cure. For by the early 1950s, penicillin was widely available. Thousands of syphilitics were given the new miracle drug, but not the men in the Tuskegee experiment.
Come on, Joe.
For them, it was forbidden. Herman Shaw, for instance, had been advised by his local doctor to travel to Birmingham to receive a penicillin shot. But a government nurse tracked him down, saying, "You don't have any business up here."
I said, well, thank you. And so they gave me breakfast, put him on the first bus, and sent me back to Towson.
Let me pause in case any of y'all missed it. Penicillin had come out, which was the cure to syphilis. Okay, these men, somebody told him that, listen, there's a shot that you could take to get rid of this. Mm-hmm. He went to go get it, and a nurse from the government saw his name, said, no, he's one of the ones that we're experimenting with. So when he gets there, deny him the shot and send him back so that he can continue. First. Right. Give him breakfast first, but deny him the shot.
Wow.
Just imagine having that on your mind, of knowing that this is what's going on. This is how this government is treating you. So how in the world are we going to be comfortable in allowing you to give us a vaccine of COVID-19? I know they're going to call this, what they call it, misinformation and all that other stuff to try to say that we're against it. But who would trust them after this, after seeing this? And don't say that you tried to hide it. Oh, y'all exposing them to. We're exposing the people to the reality.
Right.
Something that you didn't do when you brought these men into the office. You didn't tell them what you was really injecting them with. That's the job of a leader. The preachers are supposed to be telling the people what the real deal is, especially if they know it. They have the Bible. They know what they're supposed to be teaching. They've heard us. They followed us. They know what the people need. Go ahead, play on with that thing. Let that thing roll.
They didn't give me anything with supper and breakfast. That's all they gave me.
Once you had penicillin, why wasn't the option given to these men to use it?
Because if we had done that, then all the information we had up to that point would have been negated. That's all.
You basically substituted your judgment.
So he said, hold it. He said, listen, why didn't you give them the penicillin when you knew you had it? They said, we would have did that. All of what we're looking for would be wasted. So in other words, the hell with their lives. We need to keep this thing going because it's about us saving white folks. That's what it was really about. Because if the white people are getting penicillin, they needed to test it on us. That's what it is now. Go ahead.
The information we had up to that point would have been negated. That's all.
You basically substituted your judgment for theirs?
My judgment? I didn't start the study. It was part of the job I had when I was put in charge of this lab.
But you were director of the studies for some very crucial years when penicillin was available. So you substituted your judgment, didn't you?
Well, don't you always as a physician?
It's easy for him as a doctor to say what should happen to these men. But if you were to ask him, if he had syphilis, would he have wanted not to be treated?
Tuskegee attorney Fred Gray has sued the government on behalf of the men who survived the experiments and the heirs of those who didn't.
When it comes home, it's a different situation than it is when it's someone else. We can always say what's better for someone else.
The government doctors would never have conceived of doing this experiment on themselves.
I don't know, but I just don't know.
How many doctors do you know who would have put up with this?
No, not many, of course. You know better than that. It's a trick question.
You wonder about a government like that, and you wonder about whether or not this could happen again.
Some people think that it has.
And on the front page of this black newspaper, it says, AIDS, a plot to destroy blacks. Then it talks about the Tuskegee experiment haunts many African Americans.
For the past year, Dr. Stephen Thomas and Sandra Quinn, researchers at the University of Maryland at College Park, have been running AIDS education programs in public housing projects and church basements. In a 5-city survey, they found that the legacy of distrust bred at Tuskegee now clouds the public debate about the origins of AIDS.
Roughly a third, 35% of the blacks that you polled, believe that AIDS is a white plot to eliminate the black race. We're talking about genocide.
Exactly.
That was the question being asked of me when I went into the community. Is AIDS a plot to eliminate the black race?
Though there is no scientific evidence to support that notion, the fears persist.
It is the issue of trust.
It is scientific evidence. We just saw it.
Right.
They didn't go after white people. They went after 412 black men. That was a scientific study to destroy the black man's life. They didn't give a damn about how he would have survived how he would have survived that thing. They wanted to continue to use them even after their death. They wanted to examine the organs. So their lives didn't mean nothing to these scientists. So yes, there is scientific proof. Go ahead.
Why should I trust now what you tell me and what the Centers for Disease Control tell me when the Tuskegee experiment took place? And I know that there were people who had syphilis and were not treated.
In 1972, following a flurry of news reports, the Tuskegee study was finally stopped. Congressional testimony by Herman Shaw, among others, led to the first regulations on human medical experimentation and a lawsuit. Survivors were awarded $32,000 each, less than $1,000 for every year they were in the study.
There's no way for me to explain the pain that we went through with those different
So pause it, because a lot of people heard $32,000, but they said they were given less than $1,000 for every year that they've been. So that means they went through this hell for 32 years, basically. 32 years of their lives, they went through this. So their lives meant nothing.
Right.
Go ahead.
with no care and no respect for a human being.
How could they have done that?
I don't know, sir. I really don't.
The end result of the experiments, what was learned?
Syphilis isn't too bad a disease.
That was the only thing learned after all of these men were left untreated for all of these years, all of the questions.
Easy for him to say, right?
Immoral, unethical practices, that's all that was learned.
On the basis of when the study stopped, we didn't learn very much, true. We learned that they're nice people back there.
And yet, by Dr. Olinsky's own estimates, of the original 412 men, between 20 and 100 died directly from syphilis. And as we said, no one will ever know whether treatment would have helped. As for the survivors, the government pays their medical bills and still covers burial costs. And what about Dr. Olinsky and the others who conducted the experiment? No criminal charges were filed against them. It's not clear that at the time they were breaking any laws.
Give me Isaiah. Give me Isaiah 14, 1-3. Give me the third verse first so you can understand. Let me just get to the point because I want to show another video before we close up. Isaiah 14:3. Come on. Read the first verse, the first line, and then we're going to jump down to the third verse. Read.
Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 1. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob.
Brothers and sisters, we need this kind of mercy. With the hell that we just saw on the screen, we need this kind of savior. We need some power to get us away from all this evil. And that's the reason why it's important that we keep the laws of the Most High and come together like Zephaniah 2:1 said, we must come together and keep these commandments because we are in the hand of our enemies. That's the reason why Christ said that he is coming to redeem us from the hand of our enemies. You're seeing that now. We're in the last days, and the devil has come down upon us with great wrath because he knoweth that he has but a short time. Give me the third verse. The Lord said he will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel, the real Israelites. That's us. Verse 3.
Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 3. And it shall come to pass in the day of that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow.
That's what we've experienced, pure sorrow in this system. Those old men that you saw there, just imagine 30 years of their lives was in complete sorrow, and they never knew this truth. And they were going to church and never learned this. Nobody cared. Nobody came to them to deal with the affliction of the mind. Nobody addressed that trouble that was going on in these men. Just imagine that. For 30 years, you've been diseased and nobody told you about it. And you're up there trying to figure out what's wrong with you. A lot of us are walking around in this society don't know what the hell's wrong with us because we have been dealt with this way. A lot of tricks and traps has been going on. And none of these evil-ass preachers have said a damn thing about the condition of our people.
Right.
None of them. We're going to get your behind, too. Too bad time is running out because if I can go another 2 hours, I get your behind.
Yes.
I got more on you. But give me my second. No, finish reading that.
Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 3. And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow. And from thy fear.
And from thy what?
And from thy fear.
That's what we live in. We live in this constant fear. Imagine you can't even, you're sick and because that COVID-19, that thing is grabbing many of our people and we are afraid to go to the doctor because of the history that our people have been through. So just imagine that. So a lot of our people don't know about the scriptures yet, don't know about this Bible, but they're just suffering of a sickness. But they know about what happened to us. From the fear. Go ahead, read that verse again.
And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage.
That right there cuts these so-called Jews. Them bastards that's running around talking about they're the Israelites.
Right.
That verse right there told you who the real Jews are. The scriptures say from the hard bondage. That's letting you know who the Israelites are. So all this anti-Semitic garbage that you bastards are talking about, that ain't the Bible. Read that again.
And from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve.
And from the hard bondage. The Most High is specifying the bondage to let you know that he's talking about the Israelites. The hardest bondage. That's what Daniel was talking about in the 9th chapter. Give me that real quick. Daniel 9. That's why he's saying, let's see who it's talking about. Because we just read that it's Jacob, but it's going to make it clear who the Israelites are. And you no good spineless preachers, you need to have your backs whipped. For you knowing you've heard the truth and you ain't saying nothing. Here goes T.D. Jakes going to get up there and talk about the dry bones. It's talking about these bastards. Read.
Daniel chapter 9 and verse 11. Yea, all Israel have transgressed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore, the curse is poured upon us.
Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, that's what that's talking about. Go ahead.
And the oath that is written in the law of Moses.
The promise, that's what the oath means, that the Most High was going to put these curses on the Israelites. Go ahead.
The servant of God, because we have sinned against him.
Read.
And he hath confirmed his words, which he spake against us and against our judges that judge us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven have not been done as have been done upon Jerusalem.
And under the whole heaven there has not been done the hard bondage that has been done upon Jerusalem. So when you look at Jerusalem and you think of hard bondage, that's what happened to us. That's the slave ships. That's what happened to us. All of what we just saw on the screen. Now give me my last video real quick with time running.
And D, can I just
right quick.
Matthew's 15:24. And you notice in the story there, he was even talking about they was like sheep, okay? And he knows for himself that we are the sheep, the lost sheep. Okay, read that, Matthew 15:24.
Matthew chapter 15 and verse 24. But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
And he sit there and smiled and gated all the way through the whole video, just admitting to everything, okay? And I know we're going to deep video. Throw that article up just right quick. And this lesson, Dick, you say, here it is, the revelation of the wicked, right?
Well, exactly.
And what was your subtitle there?
The subtitle was the evil that the Israelites face.
And the evil that the Israelites face. And this article here, just right quick, it goes back March.
Go ahead.
It goes back March 10th, 2020. Okay? Let them see that. So it's nothing new up under the sun. The same thing went back then, same thing going on even today. So it said, report, company will pay $4,500 to be infected with the coronavirus. And this dates back, okay?
You see that?
Yes.
So that's basically Tuskegee all over again.
Again.
And who's the people that need $4,500?
The oppressed.
Black people, the
That's
oppressed,
right.
the downtrodden.
That's exactly
so
right.
that's the same damn thing that you're looking at.
That's the same thing. So we didn't want to go into that, but that's exactly what it's talking
We're going to hit that again next week. We ain't done with them. We ain't done with them.
Sir.
Put that video up there that I was talking about. We're going to play that. You know, like I said, it ain't just the black men. Sometimes we got this generational separation between the black man and the black woman, and we'll think that it's just the black men. Your father's black woman went through this thing, and so did you. Go ahead, hit it.
At the edge of Central Park in Manhattan, there's a bronze statue of a doctor named James Marion Sims, whose brilliant achievement carried the fame of American surgery throughout the entire world. He's the guy who created the vaginal speculum, an instrument gynecologists use for examination. He pioneered the surgical repair for fistula, a complication from childbirth, and became known as the father of modern gynecology. But that brilliant achievement was the result of a series of excruciating experimental surgeries that he conducted on enslaved women. In a lot of ways, Sims epitomizes the story of American medicine for black women. It's a system that's failing them to this day. From infant mortality to life expectancy, the racial disparities in healthcare are staggering. The gulf between black and white might be widest when we look at maternal mortality.
Pause it right there. Stop. Look at them numbers. Black females, it's an infant mortality death, meaning deaths per 100,000 lives birthed. We got 43.5%. White females got 12%, but yet we supposed to make up 12 to 13% of the population. But look at the staggering numbers that we give. Go ahead.
Mortality, with black women 3 to 4 times more likely to die in connection with pregnancy or birth than white women. And that divide can be traced back to doctors like Sims, who contributed to a long, largely overlooked history of institutional racism in medicine.
Trying to understand a historical problem without knowing its history is like trying to treat a patient without eliciting a thorough medical history. You're doomed to failure.
That's Harriet Washington, a medical ethicist and author who chronicled the intersection of race and medicine in her book, Medical Apartheid. While many of the stark racial disparities in healthcare can be attributed to environmental and economic factors like access to good healthcare, studies show that minority patients tend to receive a lower quality of care than non-minorities, even when they have the same types of health insurance or the same ability to pay for care.
As African Americans, we've been abused for so long, consistently by the system. Why should we trust it? Why should we go to it when ill? And that's iatrophobia. That's a fear of the healer, inculcated by the behavior of those healers, unfortunately.
It starts with slavery. Doctors relied on slave owners for financial stability. They accompanied plantation masters to auctions to verify the fitness of slaves and were called in to treat sick slaves to protect their owners' investments. In 1807, Congress abolished the importation of slaves and in turn pushed black women to have more children, to essentially breed slaves. Founding Father Thomas Jefferson later wrote, "I consider a woman who brings a child every 2 years as more profitable than the best man on the farm." Around the 1830s, the abolitionist movement led to the rise of what was called Negro medicine, or efforts to identify black inferiority to justify slavery. And there were polygenists who tried to use both science and the Bible to find proof that races evolved from different origins. The 1830s also marked the beginning of recorded experimentation on black women's bodies. One doctor performed experimental C-sections on slaves. Another one perfected the dangerous ovariotomy, or removal of an ovary by testing the procedure on slave women. In fact, half the original articles in the 1836 Southern Medical and Surgical Journal dealt with experiments on black people. And then, of course, there was James Marion Sims, whose reputation is etched in history and on that statue in Central Park. Between 1845 and 1849, Sims began performing experimental surgeries on a 17-year-old slave named Anarcha. He eventually performed 30 operations on Anarcha and more surgeries on about 11 other female slaves. When his male colleagues could no longer bear to assist him in inflicting pain on the women, the slaves took turns restraining one another. Yet paintings depicting Sims, Anarcha, and other slave women presented a subdued version of his experiments. Even though anesthesia was introduced in 1846, Sims chose not to use it for his experimentation with slaves.
Do you hear that?
His practices echoed one of the
Hold
most
it.
prevalent...
Anesthesia was available, but they said no. We want to continue to work her in pure pain. Go ahead.
Prevalent and dangerous beliefs in medicine at the time, that black people did not feel pain or anxiety. This book from 1851, titled The Natural History of Human Species, claimed the American dark races bear with indifference tortures insupportable to a white man. Studies released as recently as last year demonstrate that black people are less likely to be treated for pain, particularly in the ER.
Pause it. I'm a witness to that. I don't want to go too far with it. Me and my wife, we worked in the hospitals. We know patients will be screaming, and they would be like, "Ah, he'll be all right." Some of them would do that. I ain't gonna go too far with it, but I know that happens. But if a white kid was acting up, they would be at his bedside making sure that he gets treated. All that quickly. They'll have the black man just screaming. Then they'll finally deal with him. But he will not get he or she will not get the same attention that the white people would get. I've seen this with my own damn eyes. And I was mad as hell at that damn thing. And yes, I said something. You damn right I said something. I'm going to tell you straight, I said something. Go ahead.
It's the same thing they did, because I was thinking that anesthesia wasn't available when they was doing
That's the reason
Tuskegee.
why when you go to the ER, the black people start tearing up in the room because they be saying, "You better deal with me, damn it." They be losing it because of that. Go ahead.
Right. But I was thinking that anesthesia wasn't available when they were doing the Tuskegee experiments. Remember, they was doing the spinal tap.
Exactly.
And they said that they had to hold them down because it hurt so much.
Exactly.
As opposed to giving them anesthesia in that area, they would they did the same exact thing to the slaves.
Right. Exactly. So just letting you black men and black women know that they don't like neither one of us. Okay? The scriptures say that we need to come together, understand that this is not our rest. Brothers and sisters, we have to band together. We have to come together and keep the laws of the Most High and get ready for our deliverance, okay? I know there was more on that, but time is running out. Next week, we're going to get into more, because I got a whole lot of scriptures that's going to back all of this up, but I just wanted to pre-season your brain a little bit with some of this historical ugliness that happened to us so that you can see that we are, in fact, the real Jews. You're going to see that we are the true Israelites. And another thing I want to say, too, while I'm at it. This whole thing about you got these Negroes running around talking about some of the 12 tribe chart. There's no such thing as that. The Bible used the word sign. I want to make sure that the people understand it, because they're trying to, like me and Bishop, we talked about it. They're trying to unbiblify the reality about who the 12 tribes are by talking about it some damn chart. It ain't no chart. It's the 12 tribe sign. That's the scripture that the Bible used. The words that the Bible used. Let's read that. Let's read that real quick and end it with that thing. End it with that. There. Give me Ezekiel 37. Let's get that real quick. Ezekiel 37. I'm just going to touch this thing real quick. The 12 tribes. It ain't no chart. Chart is something that's made up. Right. This is what the Most High said. Ezekiel 37, the verse that talks about the sign. It said it shall be in thine hand. I'm rushing it, brothers. That's why I'm trying to rush it real quick. Come on, read.
Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 19. Say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph.
I will take the stick of Joseph. Go ahead.
Which is in the hand of Ephraim, fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand.
Read on.
Verse 20. And the sticks whereon thou writest shall be in thy hand before their eyes.
Go ahead.
And say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whether they be gone, and will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land.
So the Most High said that the tribes are supposed to be written down on this wood. That's basically what it said. And put the 2 sticks together, and they shall be in thine hand for the people to see. Now give me Deuteronomy. I'm rushing it now because I was going to go deeper into this, but time didn't permit. Deuteronomy 28, verse 45.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee.
Go ahead.
And they shall be upon thee for a sign.
And they shall be upon thee for what?
A sign.
These curses shall be upon us for a sign to let the people know who the Israelites are. Give me Genesis 49, 1 and 2.
Genesis chapter 49 and verse 1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
That's the time that we're in now. So Jacob called unto the 12 tribes, the sons, the patriarchs of the 12 tribes of Israel, come before me. Go ahead.
Verse 2, gather yourselves together, and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. Reuben, thou...
Now, give me the first verse again.
Verse 1, and Jacob called unto his sons, and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
So as you read through these tribes, you find out the characteristics of these tribes. Ezekiel was going into that. That's what he was talking about. That's how the dry bones came together. That whole chapter is talking about the revitalization of the nation of Israel coming back as the Israelites. So I don't know what the hell T.D. Jakes, what kind of drink he was drinking.
Right.
To come up with that madness. Okay? The Israelites are you so-called Negroes, West Indian, Haitian, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Mexicans, the Dominicans, Panamanians. Those are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of, and all of the signs is in this Bible. Not no damn chart. It's talking about the 12 tribes Israel is the sign that's going to show who these people are. And it ain't these so-called Jews either.
We used to scream black power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission. Minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold. From Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.